So we are here at the Ion Houston downtown, and I've had the pleasure of connecting and building a relationship with Christine, and we've been chatting back and forth in email about media, leveraging your media, and we started, we mentioned Crash and Burn, and we both, played around with it, did acronyms, and she came up with, for Burn, is Butcher, Underwhelm, Risk, and Not. And we're going to chat about that a little bit today to give you more information. So as you're going through some of these video series, hopefully you could grab something from this when you're thinking of Burn. So first, Christine, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So when you were thinking about Burn, what came to mind when you came up with, this acronym for Burn?
Yeah, I think you said it earlier, crash and burn. Nobody likes to crash and burn. But I think the thing is that we're moving so fast. We've got so many things on our to-do list. We're constantly thinking of the next thing and maybe even 20 things later, that we forget to kind of take those simple steps and kind of dial it back and say, okay, how do we not crash and burn? How do we maybe take a pause, and how do we think through what we're doing so that we can, when we have these media engagements, we can be precise, we can be in control, and we can share our story. So that's kind of the background of Crash and Burn, and we'll talk a little bit more about Burn as well.
Okay. So, for Butcher, your first media engagement, what are some of the things that you've seen where people just chop it all up and just mess everything up?
And I'm sure you've seen the whole gamut too, where people get so excited to have that experience with the media, but they don't quite know how to articulate their story in a way that the media can understand. And so kind of one big pro tip is making sure that you're speaking in a language that everybody can understand. And so a lot of subject matter experts will come on and they'll butcher their first engagement because it's like they're giving their conference talk to people who have never even taken that first 100 level class. And so they're not meeting their audience where they are, which is very important because the media is a conduit for getting your message out to a larger audience. And so one of the things that I've seen and that we work with our startups here on is really kind of speaking through your story in a way that everyone will walk away with that one sentence description that they can repeat. All right, so if they're listening to the video or to your interview, what's that one sentence takeaway or nugget that your audience member can leave with? And that's a way to help mitigate butchering your first media engagement.
Wow. Okay, now we're on to Underwhelm. Underwhelm on your podcast or interview.
Yep, and so this is another kind of pro tip here, pro tip moment, where when you're on a podcast, when you're in an interview setting, one thing that you want to do is you're really performing, right? It's not a conversation with your friends at brunch where you're kind of talking through a conversation that they might have heard before or something that they're already familiar with. You're performing on a podcast, and I've heard a lot of great podcasts where the speakers are entertaining and they're fun. And they speak directly to their audience members. And so one way to not underwhelm in your media engagements is to take on maybe that performative aspect and make sure that you're resonating, telling the story, but also making it come alive for your listeners or for your viewers.
Wow. Risk your message getting lost in communication.
Yes, and I love this one because communication is a two-way street. So I'm going to say that again. Communication is a two-way street. It's not just about what I'm saying, it's also about what you're hearing. And what you're also recognizing non-verbally too. So my arm gestures or the way I'm sitting or how my eye contact is engaging with you, the verbal and then the non-verbal, and then all the other encoded messages in what we say. So there's a lot that goes on with communication. And the worst thing that we want to do is risk my message, all of my message, not being heard, seen, or understood by my listeners or viewers. And that's a daunting task because I don't know how my listeners or viewers receive information. And so it's my job to make sure that I'm communicating with them in many different ways so that the message can come across. Because if I haven't communicated my message in a way that you didn't understand, what's the point? It's like I haven't communicated with you at all.
Wow. Not. Not get invited back or to your next engagement.
Yep. And so when I worked on Wall Street, one of our sayings was ABC, always be closing, right? And so that's this kind of mindset of you're always on, you're always kind of focusing on your next thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? The opportunity is not just what's happening in the present moment, but you always want to tee it up for something else, right? Whether that's the next meeting, whether that's the next media engagement, whether that's the next connection. Because no matter where you are on your journey, it's a journey. It doesn't stop with the step that you're on. And so here at the ION, we have a few phrases actually. Every better way needs a place to begin, and then start here. So the ION is the place to start your journey. But in the back of your mind, you're always thinking about what's that next step? Or how can I make sure that the person that I'm meeting with right now can take that message, you've communicated it well, they've heard it, they've understood it, they can take that message and then they can be your advocate too as well.
Wow. Thank you so much. Do you have any other tips or information you could share about B.U.R.N?
About B.U.R.N. We don't want to crash and burn, right? And I've seen a lot of people do that. A lot of founders, a lot of business owners do that because they're not taking that pause to kind of walk through the steps and think through what is it that I'm doing, but also why is it that I'm doing it, right? Am I doing it to have that next contact, that next meeting, to get my message out? What's that call to action for my viewers or for my listeners? So that's kind of the headline for B.U.R.N, different ways to avoid crashing and burning coming here to any one of our programs. So Open Accelerator, I want to shout Melissa out because she is one of our subject matter experts in that programming. So leveraging your media, a little later this year, she'll be doing some workshops on digital media, on your podcast and podcasting tips, how to start that, how to develop a brand for that. So really with the digital world that we operate in, very fortunate to have Melissa here as part of our subject matter expert network. So come to our programming at the ION, and don't forget, we don't want to crash and burn. So a little bit of a deep dive here in the masterclass to learn how not to burn.
Wow. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you.
Pause. Take the time to think about how you may have burned. Write them down so you can visually see what they are. Create a plan and then shoot for success. Be ready for your next media opportunity. Thank you, Christine, for taking the time to talk with us and participate in our masterclass, Leverage Your Media Presence.